And in 3, 2, 1. Got with me here, Zubair Abbasi. How
Good
goes
evening.
it?
It's going really well.
Yeah, you just get home from something exciting, or what's up with you in your life, man?
Yeah, just got home camping out at Burning Man.
Nice. What are you a part of there?
I am a part of a camp called Robot Heart.
Nice.
It is a sound camp.
So it's not trying to bridge the gap between human and robots being able to have sex, robot heart, robot love.
No, that's definitely not the
Already
task
too
there.
often, yeah. So you're like really into sound, or?
I mean, I like it all. I like sound. I like lights, lasers.
I agree. And just for everyone listening, we're neighbors now.
Yeah, we
can immediately break it. The green screen's already off.
I'm actually barefoot.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I'm barefoot most shows. It's such a short table. I end up touching the guest's foot once or twice during the show.
I won't hold it against you.
I'm starting to should I just mess with guests and just keep doing it? Like we're like 40 minutes in. They're not going to stop the show and be like,
It's that kind of show, huh?
Yeah, it's this kind of show. Kenzie starts touching their feet as well. It's just like a 3-person foot fest. But yeah, salute to margaritas. Thank you very much, muchacho.
Salute.
And you brought
Thank you.
a jewel, the horrific thing that Kenzie and I, for multiple episodes, were like, oh, we're 3 days off. We're 4 days off.
Back on it, baby.
We're back on it. That nicotine grind.
It's a slippery slope.
It was. So, would you be down to talk about Burning Man for a while? What was your experience like this year? Because it was kind of a COVID year, but kind of not.
Yeah, it was definitely a unique year. I think the general consensus is that it's most likely never going to be set up the way it was this year. There was no organization, meaning the Burning Man organization. So it was a quote-unquote renegade burn / free burn / I think they called it something else. But anyways, it
Renegade burn.
seemed like people really caught on to what was going on out there once the live streams started popping up.
Yeah, you mentioned that just so people, again, we're neighbors, so as soon as you came back, we talked. So what is the live stream? It's only on the first day, or they start live streaming the whole event?
I'm seeing all kinds of videos popping up, recordings of the live streams that are all over YouTube now.
So people like you, like someone who just goes, just pretty much live streams with their phone the event, like walking around. So
I don't take my phone out at all while I'm out there.
Someone in your position, it's not like a Burning Man official like group or anything, does it?
Yeah, no. This year, everybody was recording. There were just thousands of drones, and all the phones were out.
Yeah.
Twitch, you name it.
I hate people who pull out their phones and record all the time. It's literally me.
Yeah,
I'm that guy.
I can't really. I can't really experience something like that behind a phone. I'm really grateful for the friends and people who do capture it.
Yeah, it's nice. That's what I realized. I just had to become my own person, because it's like if you're rich enough, you just have someone hang out with you all the time who documents your life for you, and you're like, oh, what are those doing 2 years ago? And someone else has it all like cataloged, but I'm like, I got to be my own person at some point if I want to get this done.
Right.
Like Kanye has like 2 or 3 people just follow him around with like nice cameras and stuff. I'm like, it's an interesting life to live, But I mean, it'd be cool if you were like that big of a celebrity to like make your own documentary about your own life at some point, and you get to craft it and stuff. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
How is sleep out there? You're wearing an Oura ring. You're the only other guest or person. I don't have usually have it in here, but I wore an Oura ring.
I left my Oura ring at home.
Oof. Well, probably good, man. Losing that out there on the playa.
Yeah, I didn't really see the need for it out there.
Your ring would just tell you, bro, you got bad sleep for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Was there COVID fears out there? Anything like that?
COVID fears?
Yeah. Just like if I was on a no sleep fueled bender of like a week, I'd be like, oh, my immune system's shot, More than anything.
Well, I mean, sure, that it's the reality that we're living in, so it's definitely, a major factor. This is why most people didn't show up. It's why the organization canceled the event this year.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a fear of that, right? I think the desire for connectivity was completely overcome.
Yeah.
So people wanted to be there. They showed up, and it was, I'm sure you'll see videos of it. It wasn't like a, like a half-baked burn. It was full blown,
Full
for sure.
on. I mean,
Yeah.
things like Lollapalooza and stuff happen, so it's like
Yeah.
we're living in such a weird world where everything's so different. But more or less, like I say that because like I took Adderall for like 3 days in a row,
Mhm.
and at the end of it, I like felt empty, or like I felt open to attack by any sort of like thing that wanted to hit me. And I'm like, I think this is what I have to be the most careful about in this world currently. You know, I mean, also I'm just seeing guests all the time. For people listening, I had 2 shows planned. Both of them bailed. Independent people, they don't even know each other because one of their housemates got COVID. So they're like, I'm starting to realize, I'm like, oh, Delta's hitting Oregon in such a way that I'm like, it's starting to affect me. And I'm really,
Yeah.
honestly, pretty lucky to say it's affecting me in the sense that guests are bailing, not like a loved one sick or something like
Right,
that.
or guests giving it to you.
Yeah. That's for another time.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I didn't spend any time in anyone's like RV or enclosed space.
Do you normally at Burn? So how many times have you been to Burn? Like 4 or 5?
I've been going since 2015.
Nice. Minus last year because the actual real
Correct.
vid locking down the world. Normally, do you like go into each other's camps and like meet new people? How many numbers would you leave Burning Man with? Like 100?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Maybe you've seen me at places like I usually leave like a small party of 10 people with 2 or 3 people's phone numbers
Oh, yeah.
to like connect with. Because I
Uh-huh.
mean, it seems like if you're a normal Burning Man where you're like going into people's camps and chilling, like you'd leave with a whole new address book of friends, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely the case here. I connected with quite a few people and walked away with potentially lifelong friends.
Yeah. It's cool, man. I mean, that's kind of in many ways how we met. How I'm living here as a big gratitude. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure.
Kenzie and I are living here for everyone listening because of this man right here. I've kind of like mentioned you in a couple episodes, but I'm like
Thank you.
immediately clicked off, and then a spot right next to you came open, and for the first time in Kenzie and I's life, we have community,
Yeah.
which feels unbelievably good because we've been just like, it's wild how isolating it is to be in
Mhm.
existence.
Yeah.
And it's like all your friends are like working these different hours or like they have other priorities and like friend groups split apart. And it's just like, it's like grasping at straws. I always used to say like those shows, I mean like your wife watches 30 Rock a lot. Kenzie and I watch it. Like there's such a tight knit group of friends that like if someone does something really bad, they're like, get it. We'll love the person at the end of the episode. When in
Mm.
real life, you just don't ever talk to that person
Right.
again.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that Burning Man happened this year because you said the community overtook like the fear of COVID. Like people still showed up this year. I think that's important. We're like being so decentralized in terms of getting to see people face to face. It's
Totally.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of measures taken to ensure health and safety, and as far as I know, we as a group walked away relatively scratch free.
Nice. Curious if this is going to muffle my voice. Not to interrupt you at all. Is it weird not making eye contact with me?
No,
Looking at a green amorphous blob.
Your outfit is definitely something I'm really used to, especially right now.
Especially right now. It's funny because, like, for me, if I was looking at a green person, it'd be so much harder for me to connect. I think I've mentioned it to you before. Like, when people wear, like, sunglasses and stuff and I can't see their eyes,
Yeah.
there's so much humanity lost. But you probably don't feel that way, do you? You don't mind who you're looking or talking to?
No. It doesn't bother me.
I'm extremely aesthetic. It's funny. Kenzie used to have a dog that I disliked purely because of aesthetics. It was the kindest, most well-trained dog in the whole world. But some part of me, some overriding part of me was like, I want to live in a very aesthetic, beautiful world, you know? As you can tell by how I randomly, I mean, last time you saw me, I had long hair, I had a beard. And now I went for the trim, I went for the shave.
Yeah, you're all buzzed up.
I'm all buzzed up on a Tuesday. You ever shave your beard? I've never seen you with shorter than a
been a
3 or 4
while.
inch beard. Why would you shave it? It's magnificent.
Thank you. It's been a few years. It grows, it gets cut,
Yeah.
the cycle goes on.
Yeah. So funny. The cycle continues. But to get back to sleep, man, would you like what's your experience with sleep in general the past like 5 or 10 years?
Well, I've always, when it comes to sleep, I definitely find myself thinking about every single thing that I'm working on or I'm excited about, looking forward to.
Totally.
So I get a lot of good thinking.
Daydreaming in.
Yeah, and lots of problem solving.
Nice.
It's quiet, not getting distracted.
It's a way better place to be than just laying there in fear at night. Like, I mean, sometimes when I can't, like, especially with THC, like, if I have any sort of, like, take a puff of weed, dude, at, like, 10 o'clock, I'm not going to sleep till 3 a.m., and I lay there the whole time thinking, how could I fix my life? Or, like, how could things improve, you know? But yet you're in bed, so you don't want to, like, get up and actually make changes. So if you're just, like,
Yeah, right.
daydreaming in a nice, productive way, that's got to be a blast.
Yeah, so that being said, it does interrupt my sleep quite a bit.
Like, what's your average sleep? Like, have you checked what your average, like, monthly sleep is?
It wasn't anything impressive.
It wasn't anything impressive, but it might be like, I think a lot of people listening also maybe sleep less than, like, the traditional amount for people.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you just have, like, similar experiences, because I'm on the other side. I mean, my average sleep last month was 10 hours. I wake up past noon still tired. Like, I'm at a place where I'm like we're on literally opposite sides of the spectrum, where I view someone like you as having more productive hours in a day because you have to sleep less. So I'm curious, like, do you perceive downsides? Like, do you feel fatigued during the day or anything if you get, like, 2 hours of sleep?
Well, so I have an inverted circadian rhythm. So
Which means?
Which effectively means that my natural bio clock wants to be on the opposite schedule of, the basic way our society is set up.
Society does not like that.
No, it does not. It's hard to connect with, because it's, you are constantly speaking from your personal experience.
Totally.
And so you always hear things like, why don't you try sleeping earlier?
Why don't you try melatonin?
Yeah.
Why don't you try meditating before you go to sleep?
Yeah, all of everything. Warm milk, sheep, you name it. It's been offered.
Yeah. But you won't sleep. Like, what if you had everything you wanted in life? Do you think you just, like, all of a sudden just be able to sleep? Like, imagine you had no more things to daydream about.
That's a tough question, right? Like, everything I want in life. So what does that mean? What I ultimately want is to help humanity and make a change to increase love that we have for each other, and decrease the suffering that a lot of us are enduring.
Jeez, that's some loftier goals, man. I'm kidding. Those are like, I want to change humanity for the better for the rest of forever. Well, they keep me up at night too, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's, it's not like I'm like, oh, I want a big mansion and a Ferrari or something like that.
I want those things too.
I want my friends to have them so I can have fun with them.
I know, seriously.
I should probably redirect my efforts.
And resource, dude. If I had, like, an $80,000 car, if I didn't drive it for, like, a week, I would feel so guilty. I mean, you actually are aware. Like, you parked my car in Bend for a week and I didn't use it. If I had a really nice car, the amount of guilt I'd feel for how little I use it would be like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
And then what would I just be, like, making up reasons to drive places?
Right.
So.
Yeah, I definitely hear that.
But a nice house. Kenzie and I are starting to realize, like, this small of a house is honestly plenty for us. Like,
I love it.
We were just thinking, so our the downstairs roommate, which means we can clomp around. You know me, I'm a heel stepper, especially down the stairs. It's been nice that she's been gone just because we can be loud, but then it's like, fuck, what would we do if we had that whole rest of the house? It'd be way too much space for us,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like really good intentional use of space. I store things from the ground to the ceiling.
It's the nicest thing ever, just being like, space is utilized efficiently,
You don't need a whole lot of space ultimately, and it just means that you're gonna have to dust and vacuum areas that are unoccupied.
A part-time job's now cleaning and reorganizing the place.
Right, and it sits empty.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. We're like, Kenzie and I are in a position where it's like our bedroom is the living room, so it's like, how do we ever have people over? Like, do we just have everyone sit on our bed? What the hell are we gonna do? Winter's coming. We're not gonna spend that much time outside.
Probably not.
It's funny. It's just like a huge group of friends go all in on a community center, and then it's like, all right, let's go hang out at, like, the central. Like, everyone rents out one house, and then it's just a chill. It's like video games central. It's like board games. It's like tennis, anything, or not tennis, but badminton, anything you want. It'd be fun, man. If Eugene had more, like, free places for people to go and connect and meet each other, because I'm like, we're lucky enough, all three of us here, and your wife if she was here, that we have a life partner. But, like, dude, if the pandemic hit and I didn't have, like, a partner in my life, I'd be like, how the fuck am I gonna meet someone?
Yeah, that's kind of scary, huh?
It's scary and the sense that so many people are probably going through that right now, where I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, like maybe you could just try your hand at like Tinder or something, but it's like, dude, you're not meeting people like organically anymore. It's just
Sure.
weird for the show. Like a lot of people are coming over to my house who I've never met before, which is a weird experience. It's like, hey, come in through my bedroom into a podcast room. We've never met. I've messaged you online like once or twice, but that's the way the world's moving. I mean, that's how I met Mark, and kind of how I met through you was through the internet. So it's like, it's becoming an interesting way of communicating and meeting new folks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely better than struggling through some loneliness while we're having so much turmoil.
Loneliness is one of those things that like slowly eats at you, much like probably like not enough sleep. For at least when I get it again, I'm like a 10-hour sleeper. So if I get 6 hours of sleep, much like the end of the 3 days of Adderall where I felt like empty and like tired, like not having people who you can like reliably just like, it's just such a weird thing. I've noticed, like, because Kenzie and I have been together like 5 years now. The longer that we're together, the more comfortable I feel doing anything and or nothing. But like sometimes you meet new friends, or like when you're meeting new people, you feel like, oh, I've got to stay exciting for this person. And that can be exhausting and almost isolating in its own way, where it's like, it doesn't cure loneliness just to be around new people. There's something to the amount of time you've known and spent with someone.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know how to fix that, man. But it, just in terms of your like lofty goals, not even lofty goals,
Yeah.
I would say really positive in terms of an aspirational way of goals. Like if everyone had that goal of just helping humanity get better, we'd be heading to a lot better direction pretty soon. I think a lot of people's goal is just to buy a house and get a nice car. And that's kind of leading us down this path where I'm like, whew.
Well, we just start accumulating things, and then we start protecting the accumulation of the things.
Protecting accumulation of things is massive. A way that I heard it phrased was people spend like the most of their life figuring out how to turn their time and energy into money and things, but not how to turn money back into happiness and time.
Right.
Which is like this weird dichotomy of like people are foregoing happiness in terms of future happiness that never comes because you lose like kind of the, you know, the community. Like, I mean, for example, I never see my brother. I don't see a lot of my friends from high school or middle school anymore. I'm like, dude, our generation is probably going to be like the loneliest one in all of existence.
Yeah. Well, that's a part of the reason why it's good to start ensuring the preservation of the earth for the future generations.
Yeah. That's what really gets me heartbroken at night is when I have a really productive day. It hits the end of it and I'm like, what am I working for if like none of this is going to exist in a decade, you know?
Right.
I'm like, there's a genuine, it's an encroaching fear that like just with the, because we're literally living in it. Eugene, Oregon's having more like smoke every year to the point where I'm like, is this a sustainable place to live?
Where is?
But then, yeah, you look at it and you're like, everywhere has some downside. And if you're in Hawaii, like the weird thing about living on an island, dude, is like if supply chains broke down, how dangerous it would feel to be in an isolated place that doesn't have like enough food to sustain everyone there.
I had some friends who were in Hawaii during COVID, and they moved the minute they could.
Away from Hawaii?
Yeah.
If I had the finances to live in Hawaii, that would seem like a place I would go during COVID to get away from the world. That's why'd they move? That's interesting.
I mean, it was tough living there. Absolutely everything was locked down. Resources were starting to become limited. There were lots of travel restrictions, so people started becoming distant from one another and isolated from each other as well. But, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of experiences that are the opposite of that.
Yeah. I mean, almost what's isolating in its whole own new way is you almost have to jump onto a bandwagon of some political party. Like that's what I appreciate, and I think why we connected so well immediately is that neither of us really care about politics. Whereas most people I meet in life really deeply kind of bring into their life the fact that politics should dictate who they interact with in life.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm like, I don't know, like if I have friends who are like just watch Tucker Carlson religiously, or some friends who just watch AOC religiously, I'm like, I don't think that I should think of them any more negatively because they think they're doing good for the world, man. It's weird, but I don't know, more and more I've gotten a lot of people pushing back on me, and like people coming at me like, oh, you're associating with this person who's of a different tribe than they are.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm associating with you and they view you as a different tribe than they are.
Right.
It's weird. We're crossing like racial and religious boundaries into like a new kind of religion race, which is where do you fit on the spectrum?
Right. Well, it's kind of always been that. It's just seems to be getting a little bit more polarizing, and we are in each other's faces a whole lot more
Just
with
faces.
social media and
Which you stay off of a surprising amount. You're like one of the most low key people. The fact that you're doing a show is pretty rare, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're a very low key guy, and it's funny because I'm the opposite. Like I have a Googleable name, and I come up with hundreds of hours of me giving my unfettered opinion, and then so that's why like when people give me like, oh, I think during one episode I think you said something that was kind of, I'm like, if I filtered everything I say. The show would be even worse to listen to. The show would be atrocious if I like had to like think for a couple seconds and be like, how am I going to phrase this in a way that insults nobody? Because there's no way. Like everyone's been either through like some sort of trauma. Like there's no way that you can speak for hundreds of hours without insulting someone,
Sure.
man, or like triggering someone's base instinct, which is like, whew, it's a dangerous place to live. So do you fit on the other side of that spectrum for a reason? Like why do you live a life that's more of very like hidden in terms of social media and public figure-ish?
I mean, it's just not an avenue that I spend a whole lot of time on.
If it came organically, like all of a sudden you were like a figure who like tons of people were waiting for your every tweet, would you like it, or would you actively dislike a world where that was your reality?
Well, I would hope that I'm ready for that.
Yeah. It's a big thing where it's like you probably spend time reading every comment for a while. So it's like, does it have to come slowly? If it comes quickly, if all of a sudden you woke up tomorrow and you had 1 million people commenting on your outfit, your looks, everything you said, it'd probably be pretty cognitively damaging for that whole day. Would I get anything done?
I don't know. I guess I'd have to run into it firsthand to see how I would respond.
From firsthand, from 1 or 2 comments I can say I think about. Not even like that, but like before we rolled, I think I mentioned to you, like I was still thinking about a comment that someone that we both knew just said in front of us or like to us like a week or 2 ago. And it's interesting because I'm not typically that person. Normally I'm like living in the moment enough that I don't like think about things, but there's like these larger kind of things moving in my head of like when I move from one topic to another. And the topic that I'm currently on is because of one thing that was sparked was someone commented someone was privileged. And I'm like, that person's gone through a lot of like heartache, trauma, or whatever you want to say it in life. And I'm like, I'm actually going to start pushing back. Like I've had guests on the show, like openly, just like as soon as they say something like, and I recognize I'm a privileged blank, blank, blank. And I'm like, oh, that's a weird thing to like, it's almost like pledging allegiance to the flag. You're like saying it. And I'm like, I'm going to start pushing back against that because we don't know everyone's whole life story. You know, like if a rich, white, straight male who's like the most privileged person, what if they were like beaten or verbally abused or sexually abused their whole childhood? It's like that person's not privileged. That person has it rough, and we have no idea. So I'm starting to.
It's circumstantial.
It's very circumstantial. So I'm starting to be like hardcore against people making blanket statements based on certain attributes of a person's character. You know, what can you do though? But it's funny, my Apple Watch is going off, but there's no way I can change it because it's under a green suit. This is my first green suit episode.
You can tell Siri to do something.
I can tell Siri, hey, silence this. I know, I was thinking about putting a speaker in here, so like, I don't know, like whenever like someone's like thinking of something, we could just play it on YouTube like through here. But I'm like, how distracting would that be to have her Googling something the whole time, listening to stuff, and have to deal with copyright? So
Right.
for the time being, it's just a straight one-on-one interaction with people.
Keeping it low key.
I can't seem to recognize this song.
See, what's going on? You even say her name? We get copyrighted by Apple.
That's
But
funny.
yeah. I dig the coat, man. Are you normally someone who dresses up?
I mean, I'm definitely up for getting dressed up and partying with close friends from time to time.
I like it.
And I think this jacket didn't make it out to the dust with me. So.
It did. Well, why would it? It'd be heartbreaking if that. You may want to move the mic a little bit in front of you.
Oh.
That'd be hard. Imagine that jacket comes back with like a burn mark on it, just
Oh.
dust caked on it.
It would get upcycled.
It'd get upcycled. You give it to just a different friend. I'm
no,
bestowing this
I
upon
would
you.
sew it into another jacket.
Nice. You just make it into 100 patches and live on forever.
Yeah.
Upcycling's cool, man. So you actually are kind of in the process of building up almost a place that you could sleep in, a home of sorts. But I believe you said the vision of it was like an upcycled, what do you call it, earth home or something like that?
Earth shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like living your morals all the way to the core. Like some people are like, oh, I'm really for environmental stuff, but then they just like, they buy a new car, they do
Right.
this and that, and like, who cares, you know?
Yeah.
Is it hard for you to live like your morals all the way? Like if you just bought something that was super wasteful, do you feel like a little heartbreak in you when that happens?
Well, I generally make informed decisions when I'm spending my money. But that being said,
I still buy stuff on Amazon.
yeah, I mean, I guess you have to kind of prioritize, as far as I can see it. You got to be able to accept your own process. For me personally, I'm not able to live 100% of the way that I want, but I'm moving towards that. Ultimately, I would want to be, I want to be a person who actually moves the needle when it comes to creating processes that kind of change how we
By the way,
live.
pretend like ignore she exists. Like look this way, or if anything that way. A lot of guests like really take her into account. I'm thinking of putting like a shade over her or something.
Straight through.
Yeah, like a lot of people like tend to kind of like gravitate this direction. I don't know
Rotate.
how to figure it out because one camera has to be over there.
here.
Look completely this direction. We just like stare into the camera the entire
this.
time. Focus in. Yeah, man. No, it's I would say for a lot of my life I was like trying to live that way or think that way or have those be my goals of like I want to leave an impact on the world that changes it for the better. And I started realizing that it was preventing me from being happy, from like doing all these things. So I had to lower my goals, as like quote unquote sad as that sounds, but like just keep making footwork and no longer looking at the big picture, because it's like there's a lot, 7 billion people in the world, man. In order to make like a larger impact, it's like what's needed to do that.
Well, I mean, you just stay in that space, you know. It's an exploration, and you can't really observe the impact that you're having. For instance, I had some really enlightening conversations when I was out there, and I was talking to this gentleman who had, a heart-to-heart with someone else who had come back to him the next day and, explained to him how it meant so much to him to share that space and hold that conversation, and that it really gave him the perspective that he was looking for. Yeah. And the guy that he was giving the compliment to was totally blown away, because he didn't expect for what he was trying to communicate to make that big of an impact, and it did.
And it rippled out, and he told you about how much it impacted him.
Totally.
That's why I do the show.
So I mean, that's something small, but it's hard to know when you're making a difference.
Yeah.
When it's incremental.
I'd say something small is the only way that anything positive happens. I've noticed it in my life personally. I'm curious if you have too. Positive things happen agonizingly slow, and bad things happen really, really quick. Like people say with stocks, like elevator or stairs up, elevator down.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that in terms of like progress, in terms of personal happiness and well-being, is like something good. It's like, hey, you didn't like, there's no winning the lottery in terms of like a job, or in terms of like, oh, I'm connected into a community of people where I'm making a betterment. It's like you make one step at a time. But then like when anything negative happens in your life, whether it's like a health complication or whether it's like a partner leaving or whatever it is, it's so much negative can happen in such an amount of time. And people almost want it to be the opposite, where it's like, I want everything to come to life in one single day. And then if anything bad happens, I want it to be slow.
Well, that's unrealistic and very impatient. I think you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
If that's your expectation.
So you're 33?
Yeah.
So
Jesus year.
So you're about 10 years older than me. What's the next decade of my life look like if I'm on a similar trajectory?
What do you mean?
Between when you were like 23,
gotcha.
I just turned 24, and 33, how's your life changed?
Well,
having just understanding that we have similar goals and aspirations and like directions we're heading in life. Do I have a lot of heartbreak ahead of me in terms of like not getting what I hope happens, or has the last decade been pretty prosperous for you?
I mean, in your 20s, you kind of think you've got things figured out.
Oh, I got things figured out. Just play into it completely.
There's a good amount of ambition. It's a really good time to learn more about yourself and, and really search for what you're here to do. And
so you figured out what you wanted to do how long ago? When I just asked you, like, what do you hope to like impact the world with? How long ago did you come up with that as your thing?
Well, I mean, I was translating for the government before, life-sensitive material from about 2008 till 2016. So that was making a positive impact in the lives that I was able to, but it wasn't it wasn't what I was hoping to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. How long did you
And
do that for? And that was with the Chinese government. You're Asian, right?
no, it was with the U.S. government, and I did that for somewhere between 8 to 10 total years.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That would be intense work. Working with the
Yeah.
government.
So once I was finishing up my contracts, I actually, a friend of mine took me out to Burning Man, and that's where I found the passion to learn to create. So I was very much interested in fabrication and learning more about electronics,
So you're
light,
like
sound.
26 at that time then? 27? If it was 5, you first went 2015, so I guess that's 7 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but just
Later
about
20s.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how my priorities shift in time, because like I do my best to like kind of prioritize my life in the right. I think everyone does. Everyone tries to prioritize their life right, but everyone looking back, like whenever I talk to people, like have people on the show who are like 50, 60, and ask like, what changes would you make in your life? How would you prioritize things differently? Everyone's like, oh, I regret doing this, this, and this. Like even wildly successful people, and I'm like, it's just weird not knowing what you don't know. Like
Right.
how much money it would be worth to talk to yourself in 10 years and be like, what piece of information could you give me that would save me years of heartache and working towards something? Like, it's so heartbreaking to have a goal, work for like 2, 3, 5 years, and have it manifest into nothing and realize you were just wasting all that time and energy.
Well, I mean, when I found
God.
what I was truly passionate about, it started becoming more automatic. So I wasn't really thinking about anything else.
Wow. And that was right after Burning Man.
Well, I mean, it took quite a few years after Burning Man. I took the year after that to help my pops. He was going through some heart complications, and he had some farmland overseas in Pakistan that he needed help with. So I gave about a year and almost 2 years to help him out. And that started to wear me down a little bit too. I wasn't really progressing anywhere. I wasn't really learning anything new.
And the whole time in the back of your mind, you had what happened. Was it just events that happened at Burning Man, or was it a specific conversation?
No, it was just seeing such inspirational people that were so accelerated when it came to creativity and engineering. And
Yeah.
it was just very inspirational. I wanted to express creativity in that way as well, because ultimately what I realized was humanity is really positively impacted by art. Art can transcend culture and
for
time.
generations.
So that is a little bit more worthwhile to, try to work towards creating some more happiness
Yeah.
for people to experience out there. So it was very inspirational to start kind of peeling apart any inspiration that had been kind of piled up onto as far as working jobs that weren't really allowing for that.
Yeah. So
type of
that
expression.
happened in late 20s, and then 2 years of working with your dad, helping overseas.
Yeah.
So how long have you been on the path that you're currently on? Like,
So,
how would you describe it? You
I-
never, I guess, really even introduced yourself to like people who are brand new to seeing you.
So I mean,
What path are you on? And how long ago?
I'm currently working as an industrial designer. So I'm doing product development for an electric car company called Arcimoto.
Cool. That sounds like a fun company.
So I'm designing accessories to go along with the vehicle and working on some really special projects as well. I guess the way that began was I started to learn software languages. So I started to learn how to model in CAD, and there are very brilliant fabricators in Eugene. There's a really strong, industrious population here. So I first started out by building a business with some friends where we were pretty much building for corporate events and festivals.
Really? Not
So we
Burning
were-
Man related, but like local events?
No, these were corporate events. So like like Amazon's sales events or Bonnaroo, the music festival. We did shade structures and stage
Nice.
elements and lighting design. We designed and built multiple trade show booths that went to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show
Cool.
that happens down in Vegas every year, where a lot of these major manufacturers display their new products,
Yeah.
their new electronics. So did quite a bit of that, and then started working for an outdoor company, and diving into material science a little bit. And
Was it like learning a new language? 'Cause how many languages do you speak decently fluently?
I had a little bit out of practice, but I grew up fluently speaking 5 languages.
5 languages. And was learning CAD almost like learning a new language? Like a lot of people say like code, like you're learning new code languages.
Well, I mean, it's you're effectively just using math to measure something and modeling it, and
And the truth comes out, you're just a big fucking nerd.
Well,
Math.
I mean, when you go out there and you don't see the things that you want to see in the world, it means that you got to make them. So
Oof. What do you want to see in the world? What would you hope exists in like 5 to 10 years? I hope
better quality products all around.
Seriously.
I'd like to see more products being made in America. I'd like to see, the craftsmanship that we've been losing come back.
Yeah.
I want to see that pride in American manufacturing again. So
The trajectory seems to be going the opposite way. Like a micro example of that is Kenzie and I go to Jerry's, which is a little like a kind of hardwood store, kind of like Lowe's or Home Depot for people. And if we used to go there like probably 5 or 6 years ago, it's just like 60-year-old people who have been spending their whole lives in the industry learning about it, mastering it. They can give you such knowledgeable information. And now we go there and it's a bunch of like, 16-year-olds who give us
Embarrassing.
no information
They don't
whatsoever.
know.
No information. Like all these different like trades and crafts are like slowly dying.
right, yeah. I mean, there's a lack of an interest in getting your hands dirty, I guess.
Yeah, well, everyone sees TikTok or whatever these crazy apps are, and they see like, oh, I could just become famous through one video, or like why would I work hard? I was talking to Kenzie earlier today or late last night, where we were up to like 5 or 6 a.m. pretty much about how like, dude, the next generation of like people are growing up meeting people in masks without in-person school, and they're just seeing all their friends become famous on social media.
Yeah.
Who would work hard at that point? Who would want to be like, I'm going to go master underwater welding or something that's actually like really important for infrastructure?
Sure.
It's like when you could just be like, I could just have an easy life.
Well, I mean, there are always easy options, right?
Yeah.
And
Physically. easy.
Physically
I should
easy.
add to that.
yeah, right. Yeah. But if that's the kind of person you are, then that's what you're going to go for.
It'd be cool if the world just went more. I mean, what do you even do to catalyze that change in terms of people just becoming almost like physically weaker in terms, like more meager? I mean, everyone works like desk jobs. Everyone's looking at a computer for like 5 to 8 hours a day, into back of like, no, like physically we need to live in a world. Like you can't just push numbers around. That doesn't actually help society, help people live better, healthier lives. It doesn't help the planet. We need to catalyze a change in actual goods and physical things to be made more sustainably.
Well, I mean, it's a part of it is the like ever growing need for capitalization. So it's like now you've made a product that you can sell in all corners of the world. So now you're pushing a product from, one region everywhere.
Mhm.
And if it's unnecessary, like a lot of the junk that gets,
Tons of the junk.
that gets shipped over in these shipping containers and sits around.
Yeah, it's crazy. Are you someone who takes to heart like things like if you buy something that comes in like plastic container and you rip open the plastic and you're literally throwing away like an ounce, 10 grams of plastic, however much, just to get this item? Like I'm always doing it and I'm just filling up a trash can. I'm like, am I the baddie?
Well, I was going to comment on that a little bit earlier. So I guess for myself, when some of these things really started to become more and more apparent, I promised myself that, any decision that I'm making that's not 100% in alignment with what I'm moving towards, I have to make up for it.
Oh, interesting. So like you're okay doing some damage as long as you do enough good on the other end of the deal.
Moving towards doing nothing but good, hopefully someday.
It's a lofty goal, but I really appreciate that there's people out there in the world.
You know, you got to
doing
be
it.
ambitious if you want to make changes.
Yeah, I wonder if people like Elon or like other people like up the chain where they have like a lot bigger impact think I need to undo the good of all my workers or all my clients. Like eventually, how much? Good
I don't know.
are you
I
trying to
just saw him a couple days ago. Didn't seem too worried about
Didn't
that.
seem too heartbroken. Not a sweat on his head. Was he at Burning Man?
Yeah.
Very cool. I know. I mean, Kenzie and I almost went this year, but we gave it up last minute. We said not for us this year.
Yeah, well, it was very unpredictable. I mean, myself, you know, promising myself that I'm not gonna skip it
Ever again.
I didn't even know if I was gonna go a week ago.
Yeah,
Really.
you almost didn't go. Like, it was literally up until probably like 12 days before. You were like, no, I don't think I'm going. And then one day you just texted me, you're like, I'm going to fucking Burning Man.
Yeah.
I was happy for you, man. I'm like, that'll
Yeah.
be a trip. I'm sure that'll be massively good.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years without was not fun.
Not good for the soul.
No, I was definitely running on some fumes as far as like, you know, fresh creativity. Not fresh creativity, but just like a little bit of the passion was gone just from having to be in a sedentary space,
Yeah.
I guess, in that way.
Are you rejuvenated now? And I got to ask that you, like, at least moderately stay, like, centered around the mic. Like, if you talk, like, this way or this way, it just starts sounding, like, slightly off. Eventually I'll get, like, for guests like you, I'll get a helmet that they wear that the mic's attached to, and then they can look anywhere. They can do whatever they want. But I'm not quite there yet. So you feel it seems like after, like, 5 days in the desert, I would feel like I'd come home and be pooped. You know, like, most people probably use it as literally, like a almost like a binge of, like, a hedonistic kind of sort of experience where they're just like, I took everything and I enjoyed everything and now I'm done. You actually gather some sort of energy and hope and enjoyment out of it, like for your work that you do.
Well, I mean,
here.
like, there's unlimited ways to do it. But you got to figure out your process. You got to come in with your intentions, your goals.
What were your intentions going into it?
To reconnect with some very special human beings and to be there for a team, to support in any way.
Nice.
It was to stand in front of that sound system that's like nothing else in the world.
And just listen
you know,
to Baby Shark on repeat.
I mean, there were musicians from all around the world. It was very special.
That's wild to know that happens. What, 6 hours away from here?
Yeah, something like that.
That's
I guess.
crazy. That's
You know, you
man,
stop
why
for
can't they
gas
just come
and
to Eugene,
whatnot.
Oregon after that? It's like a little podunk town, but slowly becoming more of like a central hub for like cool technology people. I mean, we met some fun battery people and some fun like just being again like in town, having a community. I've met more interesting people in the last 2 to 3 months than I have in years. Just kind of like living out and doing my own thing. Like I'm starting to really kind of integrate the idea that you can't do it alone. You know?
No, definitely not. I mean, we're social creatures inherently, so you know, you can't do it alone. You have to have a frame of reference, and other people are where we're gonna get that from.
So many people want to do it alone. Kenzie and I just spent like probably 3 days spending like 8-10 hours with someone where his whole goal is to like kind of move out and like almost homestead, and it's like it's such an interesting goal. Where if everyone had the goal of disconnecting from society as a whole, it's like that's so unsustainable.
Well, I mean, you've got 8 billion people. You're gonna get every variety, right? Like there are hermits out there.
There are
in
hermits.
deep woods and whatnot.
By soul, there are some people who truly just want to live a life and do best
I mean,
in that
Keanu
situation.
Reeves does a great job being alone and single. He loves spending time with himself and speaks very highly.
Yeah. When you saw
towards it.
Elon Musk, did you run up to him and be like, just treat him like you didn't even know who he is? Like, you seem out of place. You look like a fucking nerd. What are you doing here? It'd be so funny.
It was more like, am I going to get my Cybertruck on time or what?
Am I going to get my Cybertruck? That'd be so funny. Just go ask him literally.
Like, how are you doing on production? What are you doing out here?
Can you give me a forward-thinking statement right now? That'd be really cash money of you. It's like, hey, man, can you give me any stock advice?
Seriously.
We're between friends here. I'm not going to tell anyone. You just tweet it out immediately.
Exactly.
Elon Musk literally just told me Cybertrucks are coming in 2026.
He handed me 2 Bitcoin.
He hands you a flash. He literally just goes there with flash drives. Everyone has 1 Bitcoin on him. I mean, I would do that if I was like all the money in the world. Why wouldn't you just do something where someone hands you a flash drive like, yeah, this has 40K on it?
I totally considered having some like actual Bitcoins made. Some like laser cut coins.
So
So
funny.
good.
Chocolate. They're like those
Give
gold
'em out.
chocolate coins.
Chocolate.
I
Yeah,
would love
little-
that.
Yeah.
Pirate booty treasure.
Treasures. How do they not have Bitcoin? I mean, they have like
Candy.
like one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
Oh.
That would be a killing. Literally like a big piece
A
of
stack.
chocolate. Yeah, it has like raspberry or ginger or something good in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the next chocolate company.
Yeah.
If you own a chocolate company, make that happen.
I got
Seriously.
I got some big chocolate folks.
Big chocolate. I'm a friend of the chocolate industrial complex.
They're known as the chocolatiers.
We need to make chocolate locally.
Wow.
There's parts of the world like that you can't like. There's no hope in like, oh, chocolate can be made local. Like everything can be like. We've developed taste for things that are made halfway across the world. I mean, Kenzie and I
Right, like vanilla.
Or out of
vanilla,
season.
yeah, or out of season. Like I personally am a big fan of kratom, which is only in Bali, Indonesia, and all these things. To the point where it's like, if the world like started becoming more local, like everything in America that you buy is made in America,
Right.
we'd be SOL in terms of like.
Oh, I think it'd be
it might
really
be time
good
to
for
move
us.
to.
You think it'd be good for us?
Yeah, I think it'd be great for us.
Yeah, I mean, how much? Like, I really am coming to the conclusion that everyone has different diets, partially based on like that's the only like race-based thing that I'm starting to make a differentiation on. Is I think people of different races. I mean, literally, like lactose intolerance is a great example of it. Different races have actually different eating things that like do well in their stomach and stuff like that. And we're trying to like homogenize everyone.
Mhm.
Like I mean, they like tell everyone, oh, this is nutrition facts. It's like, no, this is nutrition facts for you.
These are current nutrition facts.
Current nutrition facts.
facts seem to change.
You're
every
living a
decade.
Soylent life. Speaking of, that's a pretty big change in your life. What's it like eating a mostly liquid diet?
I'm very, very used to it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm not. It seems like I'd get a stomach
Yeah,
ache. I feel
I
bloated.
used to do liquid diets when I was running back in the day. Yeah.
Seems like that wouldn't be good, right? I guess they always eat those like carb heavy gummies and stuff like that, don't they?
All kinds of crap.
Yeah. I mean, running's like the epitome. Like we had a professional runner like runs with Olympians on the show not too long ago, and it's like really cool in many aspects. It's like that person's honing in a skill that not very many people get to experience. But in terms of
Right.
like doing good for the world, it's like I would feel very empty. Devoting that much of my time and energy to and I just say that as a cop out because I'm never going to be a professional athlete. I'm
Right,
sure they
yeah, I mean-
inspire people.
Running's such a weird one too, because it's like, hey, here's this thing that everyone can do, but
I'm good at it.
some people are just really, really.
Some people are
Really,
unbelievably
really
good.
good
at it.
Yeah.
It's astronomical, and they all are exclusively heel runners.
Oh my god.
Something I'll never let up
funny.
on. Now that I know how much the kind of battle and fight I'm up against against scientists saying the opposite. That's my biggest anti-science statement. Is that I think you should walk and run whatever feels comfortable for you as a person. Much like diet, I think some people like are made to walk on their heels. I'm one of them. Watch
Yeah.
me have horrible knees and ankles in
Let's,
10 years.
Let's
I
talk about
regret
this again in
everything.
10 years.
Yeah, seriously, I regret everything. 23-year-old,
So,
Yeah, I was
24-year-old
gonna
was
say
an idiot.
33-year-old
the-
tiger.
The question
I
you
was an
asked
idiot.
earlier about what you should prepare for, when I turned 30, overnight, I started healing slower.
Really?
Yeah, a handful of changes occurred, and I'm like, okay, well, that's what's up.
Yeah.
You
Got to
just
be really
roll with the
careful of
punches.
injury. I'm slightly drunk. This is, again, a handful of times that I've ever gotten drunk on the show. I am sauced right now.
Nice.
But again, I don't have to drive. You don't have to drive. We can drink as much as we want. I have vodka, but if anything, we should just make more margaritas after the show. Again, I got
Sure.
margaritas because your partner's name's Margaret. She's going to come on the show right when she comes back from her Seattle trip. You went opposite
Yeah.
directions, south and north. We're gonna
Well,
have
she actually
margaritas.
went to Michigan.
Yeah, she did not go to Seattle.
Oh, I don't even know why I had
She went,
Seattle in
she
my
went
mind.
way east.
That's nutty. That's a long fucking flight.
Dude, she's right now on Beaver Island.
Whoa.
It's like an island in the middle of Lake Michigan.
Interesting. That'll be funny if people
That's
listening
her.
will be like, she'll be on a show in like 1 or 2 weeks. She'll be an episode. And
Yeah.
people will like point back and they're like, oh,
How exciting.
yeah, it'll be exciting to have.
Yeah, she called me today using like Wi-Fi. There's no service on the island.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, man.
It's like a tiny little island. You guys should check it out at some point.
It'll be
Weird.
fun. It's funny. Just today on Reddit, I saw an island in one of the Great Lakes for sale for like $4 million. It was like 230 acres.
Dope.
You'd be like, man, what could you grow there year round to make that like a sustainable like place? But how sick would that be to have an island
Yeah.
and you just live there with like your 10 best friends and everything you grow there is like you eat? Like that's the goal. But fuck, if I mean, I don't know if you've ever grown a garden. Kenzie and I are starting to realize that that's a pretty hopeless goal is to like grow everything you eat.
Yeah,
Unless you
my
live in
my
Hawaii.
my dad's got
Also
like
live in Hawaii.
my dad has a few hundred acres of farmland. I definitely have an idea of what
Holy
it takes
cow! I didn't realize it was
to
farmland.
grow. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Because that's
Yeah.
like
What's
what
the
are
main
they?
thing they grow there?
They grow all kinds of stuff. They grow rice, onions, watermelon. What else do they grow?
Is that part of the Fertile Crescent? I
That
don't know where that is. Is
I
that just
know.
northern Africa, or is that going to the Middle East?
this is in southern Pakistan.
But in terms of like the Fertile Crescent, like where humanity was born, is it North Africa or South Middle East?
There's the
Same
two
area.
veins, right?
Mm.
Like the Tigris Euphrates, Fertile Crescent.
You say this as if I know this. I have no idea whatsoever. I could actually use a
I don't even
school
know what the
lesson on
weather-
geography.
We might as well verify it.
We have a map right there.
There you go.
Might as well verify it. That's so funny. Like the only thing that's drawn on that map is the Fertile Crescent, just
so
to
funny.
refer to. It's like, and religion was born right there, and humanity started right there. Yeah, I was gonna put it upside down, but so much of this room's gonna change. I actually just put up a lot of this art. I used to, dude. Literally, I wrote the episode and the name of every guest who came,
Yeah.
and half of the guests I forgot to erase. So it literally said the last episode and the last guest name as someone was here. Like imagine
Oh,
you
really?
hear your episode like 130 or whatever, and it said episode 129 and a different
Uh-huh.
person's name. You'd feel so disheartened. I'm like, I'm being rude as fuck by doing this.
That's funny.
So yeah, things are slowly changing. Kenzie almost, for people listening, wore a matching coat to you, but she wimped out because of the heat, which is
Sensitive.
definitely the roughest part of living on a second floor.
I hear that, man.
Which again, you're living on the opposite. You're living underground, baby.
Well, I just got back from Burning Man,
You
Worm
got back
life.
from Burning Man.
so this is not very hot.
How hot was it there? If anything, I thought you guys had smoke. I was looking at the IQ Air map because I'm like, man, I hope Caleb and Zoo are having not too much smoke in their lungs right now.
No smoke.
No smoke.
Zero.
Fuck, you had it better than we had.
Yeah.
Zero smoke.
We had two HEPAs running.
Perfect weather.
We like locked off all the windows
Shitty.
for like a couple days.
Yeah.
It was absolutely perfect.
Nice.
It would cool off.
You're just giving me more and more FOMO from the fact that I didn't take up this opportunity. Yeah, it was
It-
perfect
it-
weather. It's the greatest burn ever. I'm
It
like,
couldn't. I mean, it could have been
make
the
it sound
opposite.
worse. It could have
It
been.
could have been 3 days of dust storms,
Yeah.
and whatever.
And no
But
infrastructure to care for it. You know?
it wasn't like that. It was cold enough to wear your favorite warm outfits, and then sun would rise, you'd get toasted up, you'd bust an umbrella out, party would keep going.
Was it exactly where the traditional Burning Man is, or because the organization wasn't involved, was it like a couple miles
So
around?
if
near
this
it?
was the map, it was over here.
So you're a couple miles away.
Yeah, a couple
Cool.
miles like north of
Yeah.
the map.
Do you think that the organization will be involved in it in the future, or do you think people will just be like, well, we made it happen without paying $500 to get in?
That's what the buzz was.
Really? Like everyone was just kind of talking about, like, why don't we just do this every
Yeah,
year?
it was just like
Why wouldn't you?
fuck the organization.
The whole point
What
of
do they
Burning
even
Man's
do?
not to be corporate and organized, you
Right.
know? Organized.
Organize that.
Yeah, I mean it just continuously got more and more organized, and
By the end, there was like "fuck Burning Man" posters everywhere. This is our own thing.
people were definitely not stoked about where does our money go for
Mhm.
all the money that they make with the tickets. Excuse me.
I should have a Burning
What are
Man
they doing
exec
with it?
on the show. What are they doing with it? PR. They have
Right.
Killer PR. I mean, every single person in the U.S. knows what.
Because I mean,
Burning
it's the
Man is.
people who put it together,
Mhm.
right? Like it's the camps that put all that together. The organization just makes you wait in line, and you get porta potties.
So you don't have to wait like
You
10
get some
hours to drive
fencing.
out
I
of
mean, you
there.
could just rent a porta potty.
That's what people did.
Nice.
Boom.
Drove in their own
Yeah.
trailered, lockable, remote lockable porta potties.
Burning
Interesting.
Lady.
Burning Lady.
That's like the new
The
one.
new one with no infrastructure. A whole new organization comes out of it, and they start charging money for tickets. They're like, well, we can. Honestly,
Yeah.
as soon as
So funny.
enough like of a thing occurs, people just try extracting money out of it. Like
Sure.
there's some people who are super nimble with legality and figuring out how to extract money out of anything good that's happening
Sure.
within a community. Like that's for a lot of people, I'm always like, do you genuinely think top-down change will happen in terms of like the next president will change the U.S.? It's like, no, like change is going to happen incrementally from small groups of people or small
Yeah.
like places changing. But then part of it is like every time that happens, it's just thwarted by people coming in and being like, well, how can we monetize it? Like I want to
Yeah.
personally extract money out of this situation. Fuck those people.
Yeah, that does tend to happen. Yeah, I mean it's all just like taking charge, wanting to control things, padding your pockets.
Which I get to some extent, having some like level of like, I feel like I have 2 or 3 years of runway or like however much like feels comforting to know that you have enough funds that if your life goes to shit, you can survive for another couple years, you know? Like, how much runway do you feel comfortable with? Like, in terms of, like, I want to know that I'm safe and comfortable for the next 1 month, 3 months, 2 years.
I'm always going to be safe.
You're always.
Always.
Well, you're one of the luckiest people in the world then.
Well, I mean, like, I'm not just going to sit idle if I'm not comfortable. Like, I've been working. I got my first job when I was, like, 11 years old. I had a paper route. Wake up at 3 a.m. and deliver close to 400 papers before I'd go to school.
Holy cow.
And worked, throughout high school, worked
If
after
only
high
I'd
school.
put that money into Bitcoin. As an
Something.
11-year-old, he had the foresight. I'm turning paper money into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Everyone's just telling you, like, fuck that. No, it's Kenzie and I were literally just, I was saying, like, man, the next investment, like, idea is just to put 20 or 50 bucks in every single, like, altcoin that comes out.
Yeah.
And one of them's down to 3,000x or 300,000x, like Ethereum.
Mhm.
And then you've got it made. It counteracts
Well,
all the bad ones.
I mean, for me, it's more like I have worked and proven to myself. I've created 2 successful companies that I'm not a part of anymore, but having that experience, knowing that I can build from the ground up,
what
gives me...
Are they companies you can talk about?
Yeah, so one of the companies was called Day One Collective.
Which I have no idea about.
So that was a company that did custom fabrication for events, festivals.
Oh, cool. Which you
And-
mentioned earlier. With the thing that you mentioned earlier, like building shade structures.
Yes,
Yeah, cool.
exactly.
I didn't realize that, like, you had built a company, and then did you sell it to someone, or did you just, like, move on?
No, well, what happened was I was one of the original partners, and I built the sales department for that company, and my commissions were through the roof, so they wanted to renegotiate my contract,
Down?
to which I said, that's never going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And so then...
Hey, we want to pay you less money for the same amount of work.
One of the partners, he had just lost, his side business because weed was legalized, and so he wanted to move back into the company, and one thing led to
Internal
another.
stuff like that, yeah. You left it.
His dad bought me out,
Whoa.
and I moved on.
Is that company still around?
I actually went to their liquidation to buy up their machines.
Did you really? That's hilarious. You're
Did it
like
feel
at their
good?
funeral, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, and I bet that would feel good. You
Oh, yeah.
failed without me, suckers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was the other company?
The other company was called Honey Elixir.
Ooh.
It
Sounds
was
sexy.
that one I can't talk a whole lot about.
But every honey straw you buy at that's right there. That's we made it. Honey elixir. You can't talk about it though.
Yeah, not too much. But yeah, that company had to do that company is a little bit different than most of the other work that
Than
I'm doing.
traditionally what you've
Yeah.
done. It's cool. It's really nice to meet people who are into like physical goods because again, like you know me, I'm really far into technological goods and
Mhm.
technology, which I'm more and more feeling like less of a dopamine reward for. Like I mean, there's even a meme I printed it out where it's like you do a high functioning
Executive task.
executive task
Yeah.
that's like really good for your life,
Mhm.
but it's all technology based. And because
Yeah.
we're monkeys at our heart, we don't feel any sort of like betterment from it. So we just feel like you just wasted 5 hours doing something.
Mhm.
And it's like, fuck, man, there's definitely a downside to like working with technology. And that is at the core base of your humanity, you don't feel like you're doing anything productive or doing anything good. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm curious how long till, if ever, humans evolve to the place where they feel like reward from doing technological stuff. It's like, we're living in the weird world, man.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
Yeah, so then after that, actually, I started a company a couple years ago called Pangolin Manufacturing. This was an entity that I created that before I could even really get going, I pretty much got bought up.
wow.
And-
Penguins are like the armadillo-like animals, right?
Yeah, they're like the little scaled creatures.
Yeah, just focus into that part of the story. No, I'm kidding. you got bought out, and so that was going to be more of like shade structure stuff, or what was that?
No,
gonna be?
that company, I was just doing some product development. Like there was a modular shade structure design that was getting a lot of traction, especially with COVID and with a handful of businesses wanting to have outdoor seating and whatnot. So there were a handful of of items or products that I was working on that were pretty much commissioned for prototyping. That were in like different little segments, like electric bike, shade structure.
This guy cares about your
Accessories.
shade. This guy cares about you not getting sun on you. Honestly, it's a massive thing. I mean, like, that's why we need more trees in cities and stuff like that. Is like sun eventually zaps you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
we need shade.
Believe it or not, we hit an hour. Do you have anything like do you want? I guess you're so low profile, you probably don't want people following you on Twitter. Or do you have like anything that you'd want to promote, and even if not you personally, like?
Well, I mean, I really do want us to, collectively look at what problems we face as a society and decide how we're going to approach these problems together. And, we need to really look at the biggest problems that we're facing today. I would encourage everyone to continue to look at reducing footprints, alternative transportation. We really need to be preserving our forests. We should really start accepting the obvious truths that we're facing.
That's a good way of phrasing it. We should be facing the obvious truths that we're facing. I'm going to honestly start saying that. That's a really good way of phrasing just how obvious it seems in terms of like, okay, we're having forest. Pretty much the whole West Coast is on fire every year now.
Right.
This isn't normal. Again, we all grew up here our whole lives.
Yeah.
We didn't experience this for 20 years, and now it's multiple years in a row of some of the worst air quality in the world due to forest fires. It's like whatever the solution is for that, it shouldn't be politicized. It should just be like very blatantly like we all know what the problem is. It's how much plastic we're using, how much fuel we're burning to make all these things happen.
Well, it's funny because there's no like clear face of the enemy in this battle.
Yeah.
Except
for Nestle. But yes. Just with them buying up water rights. That's one clear enemy. There are some clear enemies.
Monsanto. Yeah,
but then there's also like this enigma of whoever involved like does this kind of work in the world is doing evil.
Right. It's nefarious.
It's nefarious. Dark head. You don't know what it is, but you know what you're fighting against.
Not cool.
Cool. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bada bing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Gonging it up. Catch you later, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks. That was fun.